Got him. I just flew through the pack. Shit. Missiles. Priest is hiding in the asteroids. Oh, you're kidding me, that didn't kill him. Hello ladies and gentlemen, this is Chewy from Wicked Gaming. Now, a question I've put forward to many gamers I've come across in the streets is, have you heard of Star Citizen? Many people say no. Really? No, you have not heard of Star Citizen. Well, admittedly the game isn't out and it's not going to be out for quite a while, but I feel it's my duty to inform people of the gospel. I mean, not gospel, I shouldn't use that word. Very strong word, but to tell them of the beauty that will be Star Citizen. Now, what is amazing about Star Citizen is the sheer scope and the courageousness from the people making it to try and make a game like this, like no one else has even tried. Many of the AAA games that are released today, they don't take many risks. They sort of recycle almost exactly what they did. There might be a few new features here, physics might be a bit better there, graphics even better. I mean, you can look at the dimples on people's faces in Battlefield 4 and COD, but in the heat of battle, you honestly don't even notice that sort of thing. So many of the things that they're doing in the AAA games don't really go noticed because of because the actual game that's released is not that different from the game that they released previously. And this is something that Cloud Imperium Games are doing very differently with Star Citizen. So to talk about Star Citizen, I'm going to talk about where it has come from. It's a spiritual ancestry. The game is being developed by Chris Roberts, who is most famous for his series of games, the Wing Commander series and the Freelancer series. He developed these along with a bunch of other flight simulators. Star Citizen, though, is the game that Chris has wanted to make for many, many years, but technology was not around that was required to be able to make this project until now. So Star Citizen started off as a Kickstarter project. They were looking for about $500,000, and the idea for this was to be able to then take the concept, prove that people were interested in it and it was viable, and take it to a large publisher so that they could produce the game with their money. But something really weird happened. While it's on Kickstarter, the game raised over $2 million. Now, $2 million in crowdfunding just from Kickstarter is a lot. But then they moved over to their own website, Robert Space Industries, and continued selling ship packages to people who were interested. And they kept making money hand over fist, to the point that at the time I'm recording this, they've made $83 million. $83 million for a game that hasn't even been produced. But what is Star Citizen? So far, I've only told you about where it came from. But what Star Citizen is quite amazing, apart from being independently developed by people who love the genre, by gamers. It is a Oculus Rift enabled, massively multiplayer online space simulator with realistic physics, extremely high detailed graphics running at 4K, an epic storyline, player driven economy, and more. Now, what does all that mean? Well, firstly, look at the physics of this. The footage I've been playing around, most of it has been from my recording. I'm also throwing in some stuff from their website and some pre-rendered stuff, but most of the stuff you'll see is from actual gameplay. The way this really high fidelity physics works is that every component of the vessel that's flying through space has a real physical value that then forces act upon. So things like mass, center of gravity, where weapons and other attachments are attached to your vessel, how far out from the middle they are, and all these other physical factors that you need to take into account for the maneuverability and handling of a vessel are worked out procedurally. Now, something I'm going to mention throughout this is the modular release schedule that they have for different components of it, but I'm just going to gloss over that for now while I talk about the dogfighting module, or Arena Commander as it was called. I remember when Arena Commander was first launched, there were some posts on the forums about how the physics in Arena Commander was so good that they were bad. They weren't actually bad, people just hadn't got used to them yet, but it was unlike any other flight sim that we had played before. A lot of flight simulators act with aircraft, because that's what most of them were for. Now, when you're flying an FA-18 in atmosphere, when you pull up, the wings act against the atmosphere and you get immediate responses as far as maneuvering and direction go. When you are flying your F7 Hornet though, on the other hand, that's in space, so it takes a while for your main thruster to be able to counter the inertia from the maneuver. This lag in causality is from the wings not having atmosphere to actually act against. This is now actually a major component in how dogfighting in the game works. Since you can strafe in 3 dimensions while fighting, you can use your strafing engines to be able to slide away from asteroids and to help keep your opponent that is shooting past you in the opposite direction in your sights while flying in a straight line. And I will say, at this point, many people have spent hundreds of dollars. In fact, people have spent thousands of dollars. There are packages out there that are no longer available. For about 15,000 US dollars, you could buy every ship in the game, and a lot of these people are still very happy with the game that they have already received in Arena Commander alone. At the moment, Arena Commander only has a couple of game modes. Capture the Core, which is a little bit like Capture the Flag. There's a team deathmatch sort of arena, which is all good fun. There is a racing level. It is absolutely fantastic. They've got specially designed racing aircraft, and you'll see them in the video as well. Then there's Co-op Vandal Swarm, which is players versus NPCs, as well as a free roam form, which is a lot of fun. You just get in there with your friends, muck around. You can land the spacecraft, get out, walk around, shoot each other, jump in each other's ships, which is awesome. And some of the vessels are multi-crew that are available at the moment. I'll talk a little bit more about multi-crew vessels later, so you can jump into the gunner seat of your friend's Cutlass or whatever and have a lot of fun. Another thing worth noting about this game is the transparency of the development. As I mentioned, backers have paid $83 million for a game that they haven't got. They've got this dogfighting module, Arena Commander, which is fantastic, but essentially the promised product has not been produced yet. Cloud Imperium Games have done a really good job with this though. They haven't left you sitting in the dark wondering what's going on. They're extremely open about the development, where they are at, what decisions they're making, what they're contemplating, how they go through the process of developing spaceships for the game and whatever else. They have regular contact to the entire community through the forums, as well as they have a couple of shows such as Around the Verse, 10 for the Chairman, which give you a look at what's going on inside. And if you are a subscriber, which is a subset of the backers who pay a weekly subscription fee, or is it a monthly? I'm not entirely sure, because I am a university student and can't afford it, but they get a monthly newsletter as well called Jump Point Magazine, which gives them a lot of sneak peeks, behind the scenes information about the development of what is going on. So the contact with the community is amazing, and they take your feedback on board. You get in there, you play the game, you think, oh, this doesn't work because of this, or this doesn't work, or maybe the cockpit should be slightly back, or the visibility is not great. It doesn't make sense from a practical point of view of how you would actually use a fighter spaceship in space. They take that on board and they'll actually modify designs and think about what you as a community member say. Another thing to note about Star Citizen is a part of it called Squadron 42, which is a single player campaign. I do say single player, though some parts of it will be co-op, but it is a one of the pathways to get your citizenship into the Union. There will be other ways to become part of the EU, but that will be the way I'll be doing it, that's for sure. There are other ways to join the EU, but this does sound the most fun to me, going through the single player campaign, learning the history and the story. As I said, you can also play it co-op, but it's also how you're going to learn how to control your ships and different sorts of ships and the history. Not to mention, I am paying for it, so I may as well play it. It will be a lot of fun. They have got great writers. They've got a full production crew. They're making it in England with full facial mapping and body motion tracking and having amazing detail in this with it. As I said, fantastic story writers, and it's being directed by Chris, who has done some production directing things in film and television in the past, so it is going to be absolutely worth doing. The estimates for how long the episodes are going to take go between 50 to 20 hours. It depends on your own skill and a bunch of other things. They're still writing it, they're still acting it out, they're still trying to work out exactly how the story is going to go, so you can't really bank on that at this point of time. Now at this point I've talked about things that are either currently in the game and observable or are almost certainly going to be in the game. From now on, everything I talk about is probably going to be in the game, but it is pre-alpha right now, basically, what we're playing. And that means things can change on a day-to-day basis. Things work, some things don't work. And so I might say things that aren't there, and I might miss amazing things that will be there. So please don't hold that against me, and I will be doing some speculation as well, but I am going to talk about the things that I'm most excited about. So this game is huge. They're developing new technology for it every day, so there's no way I could make a video that would cover everything that is groundbreaking about this game. Otherwise you'd be sitting there for hours and hours and hours, and you wouldn't get to the end, and you'd get bored of my horrible voice. One of the things they did talk about a while ago is there's going to be communication over VoIP. That is almost certain. That's pretty standard in all games these days. But what they were talking about having facial capture. So basically your webcam reads your face, maps your face out, and then makes your avatar in game have the same facial expressions as you do while you're talking, which just sounds amazing. Though I can imagine there being lots of difficulties with the Oculus Rift. This is far from certain, and it might end up in the game a while after release, but I really hope it does, because I think that will really help certain aspects of role play within the game. Now, one of the things that's going to make this game so great is the attention to detail. You can walk up to quite large spaceships that you have in your hangar now and have a close look and see all the bumps and scrapes in the paintwork, and some of them will remain there after your vessel gets damaged. I'll talk about that a little bit later in the persistent universe. Though something I should have mentioned in the dogfighting part of it, the arena commander, is a part of the game called damage states. Now many cars and things like that in many other games have damage states, but these ones are really small and really worked out. I'm not even explaining it very well, but when you look at how weapons damage the vessels, the way they remove bits of wing, the way they remove bits of fuselage and expose the parts, the systems under the skin as you damage the armor, are quite amazing. Chris Roberts is demanding that level of detail right throughout every aspect of the game, so it is going to be absolutely glorious. So you walk around your vessel, you walk into your vessel, and you see the wiring, you see pipes going around the vessel. I mean, ships need that, but they're part of the furniture. And then you look closely at them and you realize that pipe there that is running under a grate is not a texture that is mapped onto a two-dimensional surface. No, that's actually 3D modeled pipe under a 3D modeled grate. So they are actual things in three-dimensional space, especially if you're wearing one of the VR headgears. that will really help you get immersed into the game. Attention to detail and immersion is a huge part of what Cloud Imperium Games are looking for in this. Things like you don't just appear from outside your ship onto the inside of your ship. If you want to get into your ship, as you've seen from the video, you walk up to it, you press a button, a ladder comes down or a hatch opens, whatever, depending on the ship where you're looking at, then you actually climb into the vessel. A huge component that sets Star Citizen apart from other MMO space simulators, to me, is the fact that you are actually in control of a humanoid character. Many of the other space sims out there, you are in control of a vessel. You can transfer essentially your consciousness from one vessel to another, but you are just a vessel. In this, you are a person. As part of the persistent universe, which I'll talk a little bit later, not much later, I'm almost at the end of the video, but you can get out of your vessel, walk around, go to the bar, talk to other players, talk to NPCs in the bar, read mission boards, get your mission, pick up cargo, load it into your vessel before climbing back into the cockpit, requesting permission to take off. The hangar doors open, then you fly out into space. I talked about immersion before, but the whole idea is that is done seamlessly without you feeling like you're in a game, so no loading screens. And that brings me to another component that's about to come out for the early backers of the game. Soon they're meant to be bringing out the first person shooter module. So yes, there is going to be first person shooter aspects of the game. You'll be able to walk around cities on planet sides. You can get attacked by muggers in the streets. Not sure if you'll be able to attack other players in the streets of the cities. There's going to be a whole bunch of mechanics in the game involving NPC police and even possibly player police, depending on who's in charge of the area. But that's all for the persistent universe. At this point, what we're looking at is what is coming out soon, which will just be a couple of maps inside vessels. The first person shooter side of it does look pretty amazing. So you got that same attention to details they have in the ships, even onto a more micro scale. But what I'm most excited for is that gravity is optional. So you can be boarding a vessel and someone can turn off the gravity. If you don't have anti-gravity boots on or magnetic boots on, you start floating up, and it adds another important component to strategy and combat while defending your ship. So I have mentioned the persistent universe a couple of times. So what that is, it's a massive universe. They are basically inventing a new way of mathematically mapping where things are in a digital space. They need to create this new way of doing it because the single decimal system, as they call it, is not enough to be able to deal with the sheer vastness that this map is going to have. The persistent universe is going to have multiple solar systems which all have their own history. They're even building a galactic guide which is free to look at online. So if you want to read about these different systems, they have dead planets, live planets, unexplored planets, planets with all sorts of history, dead stars, asteroid belts, and everything that you can think of in space is already being planned out for the persistent universe for you to explore and visit. That's not all though. The persistent universe will mean that you can have hangars. Your organizations and corporations that you're part of can have hangars and mine sites and all sorts of different ways of generating income. I'll be talking about income and the economy very soon because it is an interesting topic all on its own, so I don't want to just bunch it in there with the persistent universe part. There will be jump points around so you can get certain places faster. I am not sure at this point in time whether or not you have to discover a jump point before you can travel there quickly. So that means you have to do it the slow way first, but there are going to be vast amounts of empty space for you to travel through. There are alien species out there who are at war with you, some who aren't. It's every person, every child who sat down and watched Star Trek or Star Wars many years ago thought, I want that in my life. Come to think of it, is really hard to explain the depth of the persistent universe with different planets that all have their own biomes, their different environments unique to that particular place, and you'll be able to explore them to find ancient temples and new plants and animals to bring back so people can have new fish in their fish tanks and their hangars if they want. And all that comes together in a bit that I'm going to talk about very, very soon, talking about different activities within the game. So, as I mentioned, there are going to be systems, planetary systems, circling around a star for you to explore. Now, in theory, these are going to be getting continually developed. Now, they've got some procedural processes in place that help them develop planets much, much faster. So, in theory, soon after release, once people start exploring everything, new systems will just pop up, you'll hear about it, and you get to explore it. And it's very interesting because they're talking about having in-game news feeds, so certain things will be done once. So the first person to discover a new planet will be the first person to discover that planet. So when that happens, or other events like that happen, theoretically you could hear a news feed while you're flying around through space or walking around through a city. You might hear on the news that you discovered this, and everyone else will be hearing it, which is pretty awesome actually when you think about that level of what you do as a player having an effect on the environment around you. Then there is Death of a Spaceman. I've pulled that title directly from Chris Roberts. How your character dies in the game, because obviously you're not immortal. Now, it's not quite a survivor game where you die and everything goes back to nothing. They've got a whole system that they're working on that you can be rescued floating around space. So you pull your ejection pod just before your spaceship blows up, and you can get rescued either by NPCs or by other players. Then you get taken to a hospital ship or a hospital on a planet, hopefully in friendly space. And as this happens, your character depends on how it all goes, develop visible scars, maybe loses a limb from its battle. So when you walk into a bar, you can tell sort of the older characters because they've got the more grizzled features, the more scars, and maybe have a peg leg. Chris Roberts has done a really good video, same title, Death of the Spaceman, about how your lineage will work. But to sort of attempt to briefly recap is you will die and get recovered a number of times. It may be a set number of times, or it might be dependent on the severity of how you died, but eventually that character will die. Though during your character creation, you will also dictate who all your assets get left to in your will, and then you'll play that character. Now, that character won't have everything you have because there's a lot of reputation that you need to earn with different parts of the community within the game. There's a word I'm looking for there, and I can't find it. But you won't get all of that transferred, though. In theory, you'll get some. It's like, your dad takes you to the same place over and over again where he does business. They sort of know you. You're not your dad, but you get, a bit of preference over the next guy who they don't know at all. I know some players have a complete lineage already mapped out for their characters. So they've got their first character's name, their children, how they're related, nephews, nieces, and all that for several generations. Though I don't know if that's optimism in their ability to role play and how much they're going to play the game, or how long they're going to play the game for, or if they just really think that they're terrible at flying and are going to die a lot. But either way, I find it admirable. I'd love to be able to have that level of organisation and creativity to come up with that sort of storyline for my own character before the game has even been released. The game is not necessarily all about combat. I know people who are intending to play this game and almost never get into a fight once they've left Squadron 42. Bit weird to me. I'm in it for the combat, though that can be quite expensive, and I'll be doing escort missions. And I'm not particularly good at flying, as you've seen, so I won't do that well. Hopefully I'll be able to find a strong bunch of friends who will be able to look after me a bit. But there are people out there who have no interest in fighting at all. There's amazing mining vessels that have been developed, like the Orion, and you can buy that and just go out and dig up asteroids. Now, the further into deep space you go, the less safe you'll be, and the more vulnerable you'll be to pirates. So you tend to take people to protect you, but that's a thing. That's an aspect of the game, and the entire mining process is going to be almost its own little mini game within the game, which is once again that level of detail that I keep talking about, that Cloud Imperium Games and Chris Roberts is chasing after. There are also people who want to be space truckers. They've just released an entire series of vessels that are just space truckers. They fly from A to B hauling cargo, because organizations are going to be building factories where they can build missiles, electronics, refine metals, and you've got to get ore from an asteroid in dangerous areas to your factories on your home planet. So you need someone to perform all the logistics and make sure they're escorted. But also, if you're going to mine something, you need to find it, and there are people out there who are decked out entirely for exploration, going deep space for long periods of time, extra fuel tanks, trying to go beyond where the pirates are, go beyond where other people are gone, try to be the first to find a new planet, trying to discover new alien species, new resources, map them out for their organization so that you can exploit it for your own good. And the last major part of the game I want to talk about is a player-driven economy. This idea that your actions influence the universe around you really comes home here. So your activities as a corporation especially, or an organization, you can make huge amounts of one resource and drive down the price, or you can hold out on particular resources and manipulate the price across the galaxy in much the same way that big corporations do that today. But not only that, pirates, both player and NPCs, but there are going to be a lot of player pirates. A lot of people want to do that. It will be a lot of fun, that aspect of the game. I'm not looking to do it myself. I'm too much of a good guy, sadly, which is why I rarely ever shoot first in survival games. But piracy will be a big thing in this game. It is going to drive a lot of the economy. Pirates can blockade planets, prevent resources from arriving, so you can't make missiles. Then you're going to have to put bounties on their head, which once again, then the bounty hunters are going to go and try to hunt down the pirates in that region that they're causing problem in. There might be player, there might be NPC. I think there'll be enough player pirates to not really need NPC pirates. But all these things, using missiles in combat, using ammunition in combat, ships blowing up, being rebuilt, all these things need to be paid for, including paying bounty hunters who shot down the pirates who are causing you problems. And that will drive the economy. With hope, the actual game masters, the people developing and monitoring the game, won't have to generate too many missions themselves for people to run around and do. So the last bit I'm going to say is, this is an example of how I see the game working. This is how I sell it to people. I say sell it, I'm not making money out of it, but this is how I tell people. Alright, so you can imagine that you are having a piracy problem in your organization. So you send out your fleet to try work out where this fleet of pirates is. Now they've captured your big freighter, which was pretty much defenseless, and there's a lot of pirates on there, as well as them having a capital ship. You come in with your capital ships, they launch their smaller fighters, they fly over, you launch your fighters, they engage while the capital ships are engaging at distance. The smaller fighters are dogfighting, nice and close, explosions, all this sort of things. Then from your capital ships, or behind your capital ships, you launch your gunships, which have small squads of marines. Then one of them docks up to that large freighter. All the marines run onto it, so you can see out the windows the dogfighting of all the ships outside the windows while you're running around inside in first-person shooter mode. If the pirates notice you guys coming on, they could have bunkered down, put up force fields and everything, and then you're in combat, first-person shooter combat, with everything going on, explosions, maybe a window breaks, they lose pressure, some people get sucked out. If you're more prepared, you expected that because you know that you're about to board them. You've got EVA gear, so you're okay. Then you keep moving forward. The pirates turn off the gravity. You float up. Then all of a sudden you're having to grab onto walls and ledges and pull yourself around in 0G because you can't walk anymore. They've turned gravity off because they've got grav boots on, so they're stuck to the floor, so they're okay. And that's another part of the tactics within the spaceship. And eventually you take them down, take over the controls of the freighter, jump out.
Yeah, I'll give it a shot.
Wow, to me that's epic. I don't know about you, but that is just the idea of all that going on at once is just amazing, and I'm really excited for the persistent universe. The only real downside I can see to this game coming out is the system requirements. I can't imagine what their final recommended specs for the machine when the full persistent universe comes out in 1 or 2 years' time will be. I imagine we're all going to be having to SLA 16 gigabyte Titans or something like that to be able to run 60 frames a second. It's going to be off the charts, especially people who want to do it with the Oculus Rift. I'm not entirely sure how that much load onto the graphics card that adds, but it's going to be a decent machine. I already am planning to buy a dedicated solid state hard drive just for this game. Well, that's about enough for me talking about this game today, ladies and gentlemen. If you think I have missed a major component, tell me in the comments below. If you are excited for this game, as I am, tell me about it. If you haven't heard of the game, lots of people haven't. Though I do kind of feel like a drug dealer, because buying some of the spaceships on there, they're fairly hefty price tags on some of them, but they look gorgeous, and it's for a great cause. I don't really see it as buying the game. When I pledged for a ship, I was just grateful that I got to fly it. I just see this as an amazing project that I think fully deserves all the backing it should get. So tell me, if you're a backer, what ships you've got. Anything else that you would like to know, Star Citizen related, I'll answer what I can. If I can't answer it, I'll make something up. And yeah, so find Wicked Gaming on all the usual social networking things. Like, favorite, subscribe, tell your friends about this video. I hope you go on to have a go at Arena Commander. At the moment, while I'm recording this, they have made it all the combat ready attack vessels or something like that available to everyone who's got a backing account already. So like I said, like, favorite, subscribe. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.
Straight down.
Decouple, tap down.
What about my Hornet?
Yeah, nowhere near your Hornet. Oh, except for that wing.
Alright, good now.
You did actually touch the wing. Didn't think you'd touch it.
That's what I fucking said.
Alright, at least let me into the co-pilot seat this time. We'll fly away with me.
Where's the fun in that? Get in the turret.
Yoink.
Oi,
Yoink.
fucker.
Is this a slow cross?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, mate. Are you in?
Yes. That's the fucking co-pilot seat.
Can you see the top of my head?
No. Can't
Yes.
see shit. Can't do shit.
Alright,
Except for look around.
going up. My visibility in this thing is really bad. I was expecting this thing isn't too bad. Hey, Wayne.